Hello again. It's been quite a while since I made a video. So hello again and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway and books. And in today's video, I'll be giving a spoiler-free review on the latest book that I've read. So I'll talk a little bit on what the book is about, share my thoughts on the book, as well as my star rating. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's spoiler-free book review, and that would be for the book Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. So Strangers on a Train is about a brief and random encounter between two strangers on a train, between that of Guy Haynes and that of Charles Bruno. So the two men start to talk to one another, have a few drinks with one another along the way as well, and it's during this time where, they talk a bit about themselves. And it's at this time also when Bruno, which is what Charles Bruno likes to refer to as, suggests a proposal to Guy. A proposal of how they both seem to have people in their lives who are just simply getting in the way of their happiness and keeping them from living their lives to the fullest. And so Bruno's proposal is that if Guy killed that person in Bruno's life for him, Bruno would do the same for Guy. And that's basically more or less what Strangers on a Train is about. So as far as my thoughts on the book, I really like Strangers on a Train overall. There was one thing about the book that I did find slightly frustrating. So before I get to all my thoughts on that, I just want to first point out this is the first book by Patricia Highsmith that I've read so far. And after reading Strangers on a Train and quite liking it, I definitely am interested in reading more from this author in the future. I actually have another book of theirs that I got a few years ago that I still haven't read yet, called Deep Water. I got that book primarily at the time that I did because I heard Hulu was adapting it into a film and I wanted to read the book and then watch the adaptation. And clearly I still haven't read the book yet or watched the adaptation yet, but now after reading one of this author's books and really liking their way of storytelling, I'm still very much interested in reading Deep Water at some point and then finally watching the adaptation at some point in the future. So as far as my thoughts on the book, I'll first get to what I liked about the book, followed by what I didn't like about the book. So what I first liked about the book was the story. I thought the author did a really great job with the story in this book. The whole premise for what the story in this book is based upon is like this really simple concept of two strangers meeting on a train. And I never would have thought that this brief and random encounter at the start of the story would have turned the story into what it became, which was how after this moment, the story very much turns into like a roller coaster of a ride, a cat and mouse like chase between these two characters from the start to the end of the book. And the story in this book has just so many incredible twists and turns with the turn of every page, all of which are very shocking and surprising and catch you off guard and not at all predictable. And as far as the ending goes, which I will definitely not say what happens, what I will say about the ending is it's very much like a two-part kind of ending. And the more and more I read, the more and more I thought I knew for sure how the story was going to end. And then I finished the book and I was completely wrong. So at the end of the day, Strangers on a Train is a book that has a story in it that very much, keeps you turning the page, keeps you guessing, and keeps you on your toes. So now for the second thing about the book that I liked was I thought all the characters were very well written. Whether the characters in the story were considered good or bad, they were all written in a way that was very three-dimensional, where they had distinct personalities and where you could really picture these characters as you were reading the story. And as far as the last thing about the book that I liked, I thought everything in the story was very well detailed as well as described, and as far as the characters and the locations of where the story takes place. For the characters, the author really takes you into the minds of the two main characters that the story revolves around, so much so that you're constantly aware of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're going through. And then as far as the locations of where the story takes place, the story in this book takes place at a few different locations, all of which, like I said, are very well described and detailed, so you get a really good, clear sense of the environment and atmosphere of where these characters are and what they're around. And now for what I didn't like about the book, there was only one thing about this book that, I didn't really care for. And that was that throughout reading this book, not all the time, but at times, I did find it difficult to follow along to the writing. This book was just written in a way that, for me, just didn't flow easily and naturally for me to read. I found myself having to reread sentences at times here and there. And because of that, it did take me longer to read the book than it would have otherwise. And now for my star rating, I gave this book 4.95 stars. Like I said, I overall really like this book. And had it not have been for having that difficulty, reading the writing at times, this book would have been a 5-star read for me for sure. Now for, is this a book I would recommend or not? Yeah, I would recommend this book, especially if you like a good psychological and suspense thriller. And before I end today's video, I always like to point out whenever I'm reviewing a book on my channel, whether it's been adapted or is going to be adapted. So this book, Strangers on a Train, was originally published in 1950. About a year later, I believe in 1951, Alfred Hitchcock directed a film adaptation of the book. So there is an adaptation currently out there to watch if you're interested. I myself haven't watched the adaptation just yet because I always like to review a book on my channel before I watch its adaptation, just in case there are changes from book to screen. I don't want to forget what, the book was all about. But, now that I finally made my review on my channel, I definitely hope to, at some point, getting around to watching the adaptation and seeing if it lives up to the book. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to thank you so very much for taking the time to watch my spoiler-free review on Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. And as always, until next time, bye.